Okay guys, this is the first video for the quiz review on triangle congruence, all that ASA, SSS stuff. And then also those mid segments, those midpoints from last week. In question one, we have to determine which of these triangles, these pairs of triangles, form congruent pairs. Are these two congruent to each other? Are these two congruent to each other, etc. Every question is going to have a yes or a no. Our goal is to either say yes or no. And then these, when it says explain, what that really is going to mean is something like ASA is going to be an explanation, or SSS is going to be an explanation. You can obviously say more than using these three-letter abbreviations, but when we say explain, I want to see this, or I want to see this, and also I want to see yes or no. Let's look at question one. If we look at the evidence that we have an angle, a side, and an angle. And then over here we have an angle, a side, and then an angle. So this one's going to be a yes. And this one's very straightforward. The reason is just ASA. ASA, this particular abbreviation, proves that two triangles are congruent. We also have to write the congruent statements. And what that really means is, first of all, knowing the congruent symbol, and then also understanding order. So for the first one, I'm just going to pick a random order, and I actually promise you right now, I'm going to randomly pick the numbers. I'm going to go CBA. I just kind of decided to go CBA. Probably a little bit unusual, but I want to make a point. I chose CBA. The most important thing I can do is name this triangle in a corresponding order. So if I look, C has no congruence markings. F has no congruence markings. So C and F are corresponding pairs. If I began with C, I need to begin with F. It went C to B, so that one is a single congruence marking. We see E is a single congruence marking, so if B is second, E is second. And then lastly, D and A have the same congruence markings. So if A is last, D is last. I think coincidentally, if you had done these in alphabetical order, A, B, C, this would have also just been D, E, F, which would have been alphabetical order. So that one's a simple yes, very straightforward, ASA. The rest of these have some tricks. And some of these tricks I expect you guys to know. The trick for this one is to look at this side and recognize, oh, that side belongs to this triangle and that side belongs to that triangle. So, in other words, this side for this triangle must be the exact same length as this side for this triangle. So we can give it a congruence marking. And so now we have a side, an angle, and then a side. So this one's going to be a yes, and this one's going to be an SAS. There were only two markings before we began the problem. But if we just use some common sense, we can mark this side because it's the same length as itself. And so obviously it's congruent to itself. Question three, we're going to do a very similar trick. We have a side that's shared by both triangles. So let's give this a marking. It needs 1, 2, 3. Oh, and before I get too far, I'm so sorry, we didn't name this triangle. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to pick just some random letters for the triangle on the left. We'll go ZXW. Is congruent to, and then angle Z, this angle, it looks like it's a 90-degree angle, but either way, this angle and this angle are corresponding pairs, so we need to start with a Z. Z to X, okay, this angle corresponds to that angle, ZX, and then W and Y are corresponding, oops, my marker was possessed. Z to X, and then a Y is last because a W was last. All right. So three, where were we? We marked this side. We used the same trick that we used over here. 1, 2, 3 sides, 1, 2, 3 sides. So this one's a yes, that's our answer. Our explanation is SSS. And then if we wanted to name our triangles, we would say that triangle, and we'll go alphabetical this time. Let's go, I forgot the alphabet. LMNOQRS. Sorry, forgot the alphabet. QRS, congruent to, and then here we need to be careful. Oh, shoot. All right. Fail. Try again. PQR. So PQR. And if we line up the corresponding angles, it's going to go PSR. All right, and I feel pretty good about that. Question number four definitely has a trick. This one's going to be a yes. But here's what's tricky about it. We know that this is congruent to itself. So let's go ahead and mark that. Right? It belongs to both triangles. If we look at the evidence that we have, all we know is this is a S, this is an S, and this is an A. I'm going to use red as in this is not the answer. So on the moment we have SSA. SSA is a no. SSA would be no, and at the moment we have SSA. The extra level trick we're going to use is this is a right triangle. We have a right triangle here, we have a right triangle here. So we know that this is a leg and this is a hypotenuse for this triangle. And we know that this is a leg and this is a hypotenuse for this triangle. And those are the exact same size. So here's what we're going to do. I'm just going to guess some random numbers. We're going to call this 3 centimeters. And we're going to call this 3 centimeters. We know they're the same size. Whether it's not, it's exactly 3 doesn't matter. And I tell you what, that hypotenuse, that long side, let's just call that 10 centimeters. It doesn't really matter if it is or not. Let's call this mystery side little b. Sorry, having some marker troubles today. And let's call this mystery side little b. These two have to be the exact same length. If we use the Pythagorean Theorem, that would mean that 3 squared plus b squared equals 10 squared. Look, for each triangle, if you're going to use the 3 and you're going to get the 10, you're automatically going to get the same solution for this b, and you're going to get the exact same solution for that b. So these two lengths have to be congruent. Those two sides, BC and DC, have to be congruent. Because this was a right triangle, we know that if this leg and this hypotenuse are the same, that this side and this side are going to be the same. Because obviously you couldn't possibly get 2 different answers from doing the exact same calculation. So this one's not a no, it's going to be a yes, and it's going to be an SSS. So this one definitely had a trick. I don't actually think that this is a trick, and I don't think this is a trick. I think that's something you guys should understand that I expect you to do. This one definitely had like an extra twist to it. And I don't think it's unfair, and I think the reason should make sense. So if you were stuck on this problem before, hopefully this kind of explained it for you. For the next few problems, just check out the next video in the list.